Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh, okay, let's see. Let's start with a little more light, just in case you aren't dazzled yet. We are getting back to basics this month. In other words, we're talking about the very principles on which science of mind is founded. And today I light the candle for thought, the power of the mind. And the mind, for Ernest Holmes, that term actually meant consciousness, our piece of the one consciousness that we use individually, that one mind that thinks. So I had dinner last night with a bunch of friends. It was Pat's holiday party for work. They do their Christmas party after Christmas. They get a better venue, better prices, and much better food. So it's a lovely thing. And the tradition is that before the work party, there's a dinner party of all the fun people. So 8 of us have dinner and really good food, and there might have been a glass of wine or two in there. I can't really say. But it was a lovely evening, and I asked everybody about where in their lives have they thought about something? Have they taken something on in their minds and then seen it show up? You know, how does that work in everyday life? Now, these folks are not science of minders. They don't speak the language. So I didn't say, what is the invisible into the visible, or how do you manifest things into form from ideas? No, we just said, have you ever thought about something and then it showed up? I got the best examples. So the first story was about Evan. Evan was 6 at the time. He's all of 7 now. So in first grade, in the elementary schools, they have a jogathon. So for the kids, they get pledges to pay them per lap, or with Evan, we pay a flat rate because he is highly competitive, not unlike his mother, although she doesn't always see that. So Evan was going to jog, and he just set out to see how fast he could go and how far. So the idea is, how many laps can you do around the soccer field in 30 minutes? Well, she gets a call, and Evan is in the top 3. So the reward for being in the top 3 of the jogathon is you get to silly string the principal. Now, if you're in elementary school, this is a big deal. Okay, so she shows us this picture of these 2 really tall kids and this little kid in the middle. That was Evan, because he was a first grader. The other 2 kids in the top 3 were 5th graders. Now, Evan, granted, is a gifted athlete. Mom says anything that you can throw, he can play. Baseball, basketball, it doesn't matter. He's out there. So he is already got that athletic ability. But really what it was him saying to himself, I wonder how many laps I can do. It's kind of like an expectation that I can do this. Watch me. Let's just see how far I can go. So on the way out, after the big silly string episode, one of the kids said to Evan, like 5th graders do, so how many laps did you run? Like, really? Evan goes, 27 in 30 minutes around a soccer field. And the kid was kind of taken aback, and he said to the other bigger kid, how many laps did you run? 26. And the big kid says, I ran 26 too. So Evan didn't just win in the top 3, he was the top runner in first grade. And it was all from this attitude of curiosity. I wonder how far I can go. How many laps can I do? I can do this. The next story was about Mandy, who is an executive at the company where Pat works, and she was talking about her decision to go to USC. She's a Midwest girl. Mom and Dad didn't have any money to pay for college, much less USC, but she knew that was where she wanted to go. And so she registered, and she showed up, and she says, I can remember writing that first check for $1,900. She said, I had $2,000. I wrote that first check for $1,900 and turned down my friends when they said they were going to go to McDonald's, because I'd already had dinner because, I was on a meal plan and had a room and all that. But she said, I never doubted that I would be able to do it. I just knew that was where I needed to go to school. She said, and I did, and I graduated, and I paid for it myself. That is a type of decision-making and a knowing yourself, knowing when you resonate with someone or someplace or something that is yours to do. And nothing was going to keep her from doing that. The means to make it happen came from her saying, yes, this is mine. And it was. And the third story was the story from Danielle, Evan's mom. Did I mention she's slightly competitive? So these are all A-type personalities, just so you know. It's the kind of work they do. So Danielle was saying that she really, really wanted to go to the Rose Bowl. And tickets were like sold out forever and $1 million, and I don't know how we're going to go, but I want to go. Oregon's playing. I got to go. So she just started asking, hey, guys, you got any tickets? Anybody got any tickets? Anybody got any tickets? And her friend says, I really want to go. We're planning on going. We have 2 tickets, but we can't go. We have a family obligation. We're not going to make it. Would you like my tickets? Well, sure. How much are they? How many do you have? I have 2 tickets. How much are they? Oh, no. We'll just give them to you. Okay, they were box seats. Up in the rafters with the foo-foo food and the those 2. Now, mind you, her family is bigger than 2, so she's still on the hunt for tickets, assuming there would be more. So one of the things about the Rose Bowl is that the fire department has some kind of arrangement with the stadium that's close by. So she talked to her friend who was a fire captain, and you guys got any extra tickets you're not going to use? And then, oh, yeah, we got 4 tickets. You want them? 6 free tickets to the Rose Bowl. Did I mention the other 4 were down on the 30-yard line, 3 rows in? So 2 of them went up to the box. Danielle and her son went up to the box seats. The rest of the family was down below. They had binoculars. They could see what was going on. Danielle's like, I want to sit down there. So her friends down below said, well, if you're coming down, could you bring me a sandwich or something? And, because, you're in the box seat, you got really nice stuff. And so she says at halftime, we got up. She says, I filled my purse. We went downstairs. My husband came up. We had a great time. It comes from knowing your own passion and believing and trusting and knowing that there's a way. Why not? Why not? Why not you? Why not the Rose Bowl? Why not the 30-yard line? Why not that new job? Why not that new house? Why not an influx of revenue to support your business or your family or your next venture? Why not? It's the intention that we give something, the direction that we choose, plus our action that creates the form. Or as we say in Science of Mind, treat and move your feet. So it's not just enough to have the passion to want to go to the game. You also have to step out and ask questions and see who might be able to help. Or you also have to write that check and just keep moving on faith. Or you just keep running around the field to see how many times you can go before they call time. It's the power of our minds. It's the power of thought. And this is what Science of Mind teaches, that what we think and believe creates our lives. Now, the thing is, what's in our minds is this big, huge mishmash of everything we've ever done or seen or believed or what anybody else has ever told us, what the culture tells us, what our experiences have been. What we think about on Tuesday might be different than what we think about on Friday. And so consequently, because most of what we think about is unconscious, we end up with a mishmash of experiences too, right? Life goes up and down and up and down. It's cloudy, it's clear, it's cloudy, it's clear. But focused thought, or as Ernest Holmes called it, trained thought, is very, very powerful. He defined thought as the creative force activated by our beliefs. It's like flipping a switch. When you laser focus in on something, you are activating an energy in the universe that will cause it to bring to you what it is you are seeking. It's the power of yes. How many of you have a toolbox at home? Somewhere? in the garage behind stuff? How many of you actually know how to use the stuff in it? A couple of you. That's good. That's good. How many of you have a toolbox and you don't know how to use this? You know, the wrench makes a good doorstop, that kind of toolbox? Yeah, there's a few of us. Okay. All right. So the thing is, the house doesn't get repaired if you don't know how to use the tools, right? Just having a toolbox is not enough to fix the roof, right? Some of you may have noticed that. Yes. You kind of have to have a little bit of skill. And our thoughts are no different, you know. Holmes says that practically the whole human race is hypnotized because it thinks what somebody else told it to think. Oh, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? So you can have this great toolbox of a mind, the ability to manifest, the ability to create, the ability to express, the ability to lift and uplift others around you. But if you don't know how to use it with any kind of skill, then you just kind of have a box of tools. You just kind of have those ping pong balls bouncing around in your head, as always. See, the thing is, when we use our minds to manifest, when we decide that we have a goal or an intention or something that we really want to create in our lives, and we set about creating that, we're not really making something happen. And so I was thinking of it with like the laws of physics. So you have a hammer and a nail, right? And physics are at work. When you swing the hammer with a certain amount of force, with a certain aim, and you hit the nail, and there's a piece of wood, and the nail goes into the wood, there's all kinds of physical laws taking place right there, right? We don't make the physical laws. We use them. Right? So I know that if I give the hammer a slightly harder swing, I'm going to hit the nail a little harder. It's going to go into the wood a little deeper. And if I'm skilled, I can do pound, pound, the nail is in, and pretty soon the house is built. If I'm unskilled, then I have a bent nail, a sore thumb, and the picture is on the wall. Same laws of physics. Different capabilities in using those laws. So our issue is not to think harder or figure it out or make it work, or my favorite, change you so I can be happy. It's really about using the laws that we have to activate our own creativity, our own power from within, so that what happens in our lives is more of what we want because we're the ones choosing the direction. In other words, it's conscious choice. We talk about speaking our word. You know, we figure out what it is we want to claim or we want to experience, and we speak our word. And Holmes says, just what is meant by your word. It means your conscious intention, your conscious direction, your conscious faith and acceptance that because of what you are doing, the power of Spirit will flow through your word in the direction you give it. So it's knowing that the power within, that spiritual something that we all sense, even if we can't name, that it is something that we tap into in order to allow greater things to happen in our own experiences, in order to expand our experience of life, in order to grow and transform. Eric Butterworth, who writes on prosperity, he's the author of Spiritual Economics, he says, thought itself doesn't create. It either places us consciously in the universal flow, or it frustrates the flow. And that's true with the way we think, right? We are either, if we're not making something happen, we're activating a power, but are we activating it to build a wall and shut ourselves down and say no before we even start? Or are we activating that power and opening and expanding so that something greater might happen? Because you see, the flow of life is always happening. We're either just aware of it or not. We're in it or not. We're resisting it or we're going with it. That's on us. That's on the way we think, the way we talk to ourselves, the way we care about each other, the way we live in our passion and compassion. That's what gives us flow or no flow. Sometimes those negative thought patterns, which are also habitual, that voice in your head that, always says the same negative thing to you all the time, here you go. I'm putting on my mascara this morning, I do it all the time. It's not that big a deal. Guys, just hang with me here. And, well, maybe some of you know about mascara. And I move it, and, before I'm done, I have this big black dot like on the inside of my nose from the end of the wand, Now, the voice in my head could tell me how clumsy I am, how sloppy I am. My God, I can never get this right. And what is wrong with me? And I must really be not feeling good this morning. And I could, before you know it, I'm a puddle on the floor because it's just so awful. Okay, it's mascara. I could, which is what I did, finish and go, all right, just get that off of there, a little Q-tip and a little water, done. No big deal. So are you living your life in the no big deal, I made a mistake, let's move on? Or are you getting stuck in the spiral of how awful and not enough you are? Or how not enough you have? Or how not enough you're doing? I was reading something else and never mind. I can't remember the quote. I'll come back to it. It's really good. Ernest Holmes has a sense of humor, in case you didn't know. I'm going to go back to what I was talking about. We become a prisoner of our thoughts when we allow those negative spirals to continue, when we allow that vortex to pull us under. And how is it that we break out of that? And I was thinking about what I would write or what I would say about that this morning, and I opened my copy of How to Use the Science of Mind. It's a little tiny book. And apparently I stole it off of my mother's shelf because there's underlining in green ink. That's my mother's trademark. My mom is a minister, for those of you that don't know. And the page that I opened it to, in the margin in her handwriting, it says, from head to heart. And I went, oh, that's how you do it. You see, Ernest Holmes taught law and love. It takes both. It's the love that moves us. It's the compassion that moves us, that builds the bridges, that is constructive. It's the love that we feel that takes care of us, that allows us to take care of and care about others, right? He says there is a deeper level than the intellect, which is where our thought is. There is a deeper level than the intellect, yet it is the intellect that must unite with something larger than itself. If we're only in our heads, we're probably only in that very human, finite, somewhat limited and cranky part of ourselves. We really need the heart to stay open. One who listens to the gentle urgings of his own soul and accustoms himself to seeing God, to seeing the good in all of nature, will gradually be transforming himself from a lower to a higher consciousness of life. Wherever we are, there God is. And wherever we recognize the divine presence, then the divine presence responds. And to feel that it is guiding us is normal. To desire that the divine mind shall project itself into our thought and our actions is natural. It is that spiritual something which must be added to every word spoken in effective mental treatment, spiritual mind treatment. Everyone should train himself to listen deeply to the Spirit, which spontaneously flows through his own being. This is adding the Spirit of truth to the letter of the law. You see how that works? When we get stuck in our heads and it's negative, we must bring love and care and compassion to ourselves. We have to move into that heart space that knows something greater. We need to step back from that human experience which slams up against us all the time and remember that there is a higher perspective. There is always a greater truth at work. When the two become one, the Spirit of truth and the letter of the law, When the two become one, the most amazing power the world has ever witnessed flows freely into action through human affairs. In other words, that spiritual nature within is allowed to flow into our very human existence. And when that happens, we are fed, we are grounded, we are strong, we are in our own power, and mighty things happen. We have to listen. We have to listen to our heart. We have to live from that authentic place that knows truly who we are, what our gifts are, how we are meant to give. We have to anchor ourselves in our own truth, our own consciousness, our own way of understanding that higher perspective, so that we might become and act as if and actually express the spiritual nature that we are. That loving, compassionate person that we are. When you strip away all of the circumstances that make us think otherwise, there is only power. It shows up in kids like Evan who have no filters about what they can and cannot do. He didn't stand there and go, oh man, there's sixth graders running. There's no way. I mean, why would I even do it? Maybe grandma will give me $10 for my jogathon. He doesn't have any of that nonsense in his head. He's like, okay, let's go. Let's see how many I can run. And oh, by the way, I beat y'all. I mean, we all have that. We all have that. We all have a desire or a resonance with something that calls to us that we know is ours to do. How else do you think I ended up here? I didn't grow up saying I want to be a minister when I grow up. That was nowhere in my frame of reference. I wanted to be a stewardess. Everybody knows the stewardesses on Pan Am had the best uniforms and got to go all over the world. And they were very glamorous. And I like glamour. And yet, when the heart calls, we listen. Because there's truth there. There's power there. There is the ability to say yes to who we are and what we want and have it show up, because that's the way it works. And it all starts with how we think. What we tell ourselves, about the world, about the community, about who we are meant to be. So we all have it in us to say, I can, and let's just see. And I wonder what might happen. That land of possibilities. We all have it in us to set an intention and move towards it, however it shows up, one $1,900 check at a time. We all have within us the desire for something, and we can trust that it's ours and have it show up. Because we all use that one mind, that creative power of life, that one consciousness that we are all a part of, showing up uniquely as each of us, just like light reflecting through a prism. All different colors, all different directions, one source. And it is from that place that our true power is made known. Namaste.